full moon last night, or the day before, I guess, maybe. Still shining in the sky. Back at Crane's Roost. The best colors of sunrise have faded now. A little bit later than I get here sometimes when I drop off my wife at work, usually. Oh, hi, little ducky. How's it going? He's wondering, what's this guy standing here talking about? Actually, my wife, as some of you know, is on an airplane from Atlanta to Korea right now. About 4:30 in the morning over there, which would be about 4:30 this afternoon. She'll finally be landing. Long flight, like 15 and a half, 16 hours. Fortunately, she's in Comfort Plus, a little bit of leg room. Though I guess there's some grouchy old white guy next to her bitching about before they took off about how he didn't pay for a middle seat, you know. Oh well, guess he should have got on there earlier, made his plans like in April like we did. Maybe he could have got a window seat or an aisle. But it's interesting. As I say, my wife is on her way back to Mindanao, having a healthy milkshake for breakfast today in lieu of my usual coffee, just for a change of pace. No, not the best one I've ever had anyways. Aside from not being healthy, maybe I won't finish it. But most of you who are into the whole Philippines thing, you've probably seen some videos yesterday about this one young American guy who was kidnapped over there in Mindanao, down around Zamboanga City, I guess, in that area. Little town out in the middle of nowhere in a, mainly Muslim area. I guess he was married to a local Muslim woman. I've never actually checked out his channel, but from what I read, he's always posting videos, talking about how he's like the only foreigner to be living around there in this area and how dangerous it is and everything. And I don't know, I hate to say it, but maybe he fucked around and found out, as people like to say. Sometimes it's best not to rub it in people's faces too much, just for the sake of getting views on YouTube. You have to be careful about some of that stuff. But it's always been a topic among, expat YouTubers and stuff about Mindanao. I've made videos before in the past about whether or not it's safe for a foreigner to be in Mindanao. All the other YouTubers out there, many of whom have never even been to fucking Mindanao, are making videos about the subject, so I might as well. Having been there like half a dozen times, for various different periods of time. I remember way back when I first went there with my wife, at the time we weren't married yet, went over to Pagadian City. I remember, those of you who have been watching some of this stuff for a while probably are familiar with Ned at My Philippine Dreams. And he went over to Mindanao, made a couple videos about that with, his former girlfriend Michelle was from over in that area. And like there was this one restaurant he went to, a little hotel, and there was this boa constrictor or something of some kind of snake there in this cage, and he was looking at it, poor thing in captivity there. And it was so funny when my wife's family came to pick us up at the airport when we first flew over there from Manila. We ended up going to that exact same restaurant, for lunch after we left the airport. And I was like, oh wow. I took a picture, showed Ned on his Facebook page or wherever, hey, look, the snake is still here, And but yeah, that's when he made his video talking about, you can tell that's kind of the thing, Mindanao, where no Westerner dares tread. You've got the guy, Red Zone Mindanao, the one British guy. He likes to always talk, I saw some of his earlier videos, like, do you have the balls to live here like I do, and all this stupid shit. There's a reason why people say what they do about Mindanao. It's not like it's the most perfectly safe place in the world. I remember one time when I was talking to someone about getting a life insurance policy, and they asked if I had any travel plans, and I told them that I was planning to head over to the Philippines, and at this point I wasn't interested in the Mindanao thing yet. That was one of the questions they asked me, when he found out I was traveling to the Philippines. Are you planning to go to Mindanao? Which I guess would have meant maybe they didn't want to give me a life insurance policy, So, it's a few years, well, man, it's been more than a few years since I've been back there, since maybe 7 years at least, 7.5. The one time, I don't know if it was the last time I was over there or not, before my wife moved over here, but it was when they had all that shit going on in Marawi, with the insurrection and the military action over there, and they had declared martial law, and we ended up not too far from there, this one little resort we went to for a couple of days, and I posted some stuff. Here we are in Mindanao under martial law. I saw less soldiers and shit that time than I usually did. But I've been over there before, like Pagadian City, for instance. I remember sitting there one time with my wife in the Greenwich or Greenwich, however they pronounce it over there, pizza place, and some old guy kept going by the window looking at me. I was kind of keeping an eye on him too, made sure he knew I was watching him. And, watch the people go by, the looks you get. When you see soldiers standing around with M240 light machine guns and stuff, there's a reason. They're not just doing it for kicks. And I know the first time when I went over there, we went to this one resort, this one lake, and the only other white guy around, some Russian guy I saw sitting there checking me out from the other side of the pool. It's part of that is because people are afraid to travel there, and part of it's because there's good reason in some of those places. There are places where some of my wife's relatives live that it just wouldn't be safe for me to go. Certain areas where for me to be out walking around by myself after night would be tempting fate. And it's not like over here in the States, where over here I can walk around with a gun. I can't do that in the Philippines. A few guys pull up in a van and try to drag me into the van, like that one Italian guy up in, what is it, Osamis, or no, shit, I forget the name of it, Dipolog or something like that, where this former Italian priest, had a pizza place or something there, and big dream, I guess, to move to Mindanao and open up a pizza shop. I don't know. Got kidnapped. They later found the van where that they used in that kidnapping around Pagadian somewhere, I think, and he ended up dead. Can't remember if they just killed him or chopped off his head, as some of these people like to do. They're into that. But you have to think about that stuff. You're traveling around Mindanao. Like I say, I've been there like half a dozen times, but it's something I think about too. The one time I was there, my wife and I were over in Cebu, and there was this outdoor market, and one of the first things I did was find a folding knife at one of the tables too, to take back with me to Mindanao too. It's you have to be realistic about things. We all like to think we're badasses and shit like that, But you don't want to tempt fate. You certainly don't want to tempt fate going on Mindanao and telling all the locals what a badass you are and I ain't afraid of you, you know, and shit like that, and making videos all the time just to try and get views on YouTube talking about how dangerous it is where you live, but I ain't scared. That's just a pretty fucking stupid thing to do, you know? I mean, we all want to feel like we're badasses and brave and show we have a spine. And I don't know, after all the shit you hear, the first time I went to Mindanao, it was a little bit of a thrill, you know? You think, at the time, man, I didn't care at the time anyways, you know? Sometimes, depending on your attitude and who you are, the state of your life, the thought of a little bit of action just breaks the boredom, you know? But when you're living a happy life and content with where you are, you don't really like having terrorists try and take you away in a van and hold you in a bamboo cage for months, you know? I've seen people that happened to over there, missionaries and stuff. I used to have a friend a long, long time ago. He was a good bit older than me, up in the Pittsburgh area. He had been an Army Ranger over in Korea, and they got captured, held in bamboo cages for like a month, nothing to eat but rice with like maggots in it. To that day, back when I knew him, like 30 years later, he wouldn't eat rice, But after they managed to escape, they killed the guards with their bare hands. He got ripped open in the stomach, with a bayonet while they were escaping. They managed to hide in some rice fields and stuff, and while the people were out looking for them and managed to get back to the American lines. Said he's laying there, the medics just stuffing everything back in, stitching him up. He's like, isn't that shit supposed to go in there in some kind of particular order? And the guy's like, nah, it doesn't matter. And then they went back and found the guy who had captured them and slit his throat, So the idea of being held in a bamboo cage in the jungle has never appealed to me after that. So, not something I want to do, And I would, but it's easy to say, well, fuck it, they try to drag me in a van, I'd rather get shot right there than be tortured. You never know what you're going to do when the situation actually happens, though. Like I say, especially when you can't really be armed, or at least not so people know about it. And over in the Philippines, in a lot of places, unless you are out in the provinces, you're going through metal detectors everywhere. So it's not that easy to be armed, But it's easy to think, I'll stomp on the inside of his knee and break his fucking leg and then give him an elbow to the nose and break his nose and shit like that. You play out scenarios in your head how you would do it. Which is nice, it's useful, because who knows what might happen. Maybe you'll be in that situation and that's what'll happen. But it would be best to just avoid that kind of stuff. Especially for a lot of us. You see a lot of these guys like in their 60s, 70s and stuff. I saw a British expat in the Philippines a while back making a video about some guy who had been interviewed on another channel over there, talking about how you go over there, got like 8 girlfriends, and you sleep with these girls, and then they tell their friends and they want to sleep with you. And I didn't realize at the time, I later saw that video pop up on my home page, on my feed. And I was like, shit, it's a 70-year-old guy saying all this shit, There's some strange characters over there. But you have to be careful. No matter what age you are or what kind of shape you're in, you get like 3-4 guys with M16s. What are you going to do? It's easy to think of, some, Hollywood Die Hard shit or something. But in the in the real world, your options when you've got, 2, 3, 4 people coming after you who are armed and you're not, are very limited, unless they're really inept, or else they just assume that you're harmless and they make mistakes, you might be able to do something. You got 3 people, say you got one person driving a van, a couple other people jump out and try to persuade you to get in with guns. If you know a little bit about what you're doing, you might be able to do something. Maybe while they're getting you in the van, you can grab the handle on the door and slam it shut on somebody's head or something, You always have to be thinking of your options. And like I say, who knows what you might be able to carry. But what if you're in your house, you know, like these guys that kidnapped this guy, showed up at his house pretending to be, you know, cops, I guess, dressed in, you know, some kind of official uniforms with M16s. I mean, what are you going to do? You can't really have firearms. It's easy, you know, you hear like people, you know, my wife has relatives who are in the military. Are they really going to throw their career away to get me an M16 or hook me up with a, you know, an illegal 1911 or something? Even if you were to use such a thing, unless you did it out in the provinces on the side of a road where nobody could see you doing it, and then you threw their bodies over the side of the road and got out of there without anybody knowing you were there, you know, somebody's going to find out about it, you know. Are you going to end up getting just kicked out of the country and they say, okay, it was legitimate self-defense, but yet at the same time, who knows, you were illegally using a weapon. You're going to end up in a Philippine prison for the rest of your life. That wouldn't be a fun thing to do. So the thing you have to do more than anything is just mitigate risk. You don't want to be over there being an asshole and insulting the locals. You sure don't want to get up in their face and act like, hey, who are you? You know, like, you think you're going to fuck with me? I'm an American. It's, you know, it's like some asshole going into a mob bar and picking a fight with a mobster and saying, yeah, you ain't so bad. Really? And then the next thing you know, they find you in an alley, you know, with your kneecaps shot off and your throat slit, you know? You just don't fuck with people. It's, you know, it's just not smart to fuck with dangerous people. No matter how dangerous you might like to think you are, there's no way to escape from a properly planned ambush, you know? It's just, when they have the element of surprise, you're on their home turf. You know, I've talked to people before when I was going over the Philippines. This one young guy had been over there in the Marines. He's like, man, better take a knife. One other guy I knew that worked at this one local gun shop in Orlando, he's like, oh yeah, I was in Mindanao, but, you know, it was me and all my friends with, you know, machine guns too. So, you know, it's not the same just going over there. You know, some old guy, you know, walking around with arthritis and heart issues and stuff, thinking you're going to take out a bunch of armed insurgents. You know, people who hate you for your religion or from where you're from, or, you know, maybe you're just something they can get some money for. Life is very cheap over there. Life is cheap. You look at the conditions that a lot of people live in over there, the poverty, the day-to-day life that a lot of people live over there. You know, we look at things, even over here in America, you look at the shit that people get killed for over here, you know? People get blown away for a few bucks. What do you think it's like in the Philippines, you know? People are just looking to get through one day to the next, you know? And they will, you know, they'll take you out for a few pesos. It's just not worth it, you know? It's not worth it to piss people off over there. So, I don't know. I mean, the area where my wife is from is generally pretty safe. But you never know. You never know who's watching you, checking out your lifestyle, thinking, hey, can we get some money? Kidnapping this person or whatever. And it's, you know, I don't know. That sounds like a strange thing for somebody to say when they've got a house over there that they're planning to move into someday and all of that. But you better have good relationship with your family, your relatives, and all of that. The local police, the mayor, any friends you can have over there, you need to have them, you know? And you certainly don't want to go out of your way to be rubbing it in people's faces that, oh, look at me, look at my big balls I've got, I'm not afraid to live here. It doesn't matter if you're afraid or not, you know? Somebody shoots a bullet in your head, the fact that you weren't afraid isn't going to stop that bullet from blowing your brain out the back, you know? You know, doesn't matter if you're afraid. The people who are getting ready to shoot you or stick a knife in you, they don't give a fuck if you're afraid, so you're not afraid. You're still going to die, you know? people need to be realistic about this stuff. You know, it's nice to have a bad attitude and think, you know, even though I walk through the valley, the shadow of the valley of death, I'll fear no evil, for I'm the baddest motherfucker in the valley. That stuff sounds really cool and romantic. When you're actually walking through the valley of death, if you're not armed and don't have a bunch of friends who are armed, it's best to keep a low profile and stay in the shadows, you know? Not be an asshole. But some of these guys, you know, you hate to say people are asking for it, but the way some people act, I don't know, I don't know what was going through this guy's mind. Just a kid, basically, 26 years old, married to a local, found the love of his life, supposedly, or whatever. But this one guy, I don't know if he's still around or not, went by Mrs. Heminger on YouTube. A fun, interesting character back in the day. Was always commenting about the, you know, Kermit, whenever back in the Peter Vandiver anti-sex pat drama days. Fun times. But he told me one time, and commented on one of my videos, he's like, man, no woman is worth going to Mindanao for, you know? Obviously, I guess I disagreed with that. But shit, you gotta be careful, you know? You have to keep your eyes open. Obviously, I guess I'm not the person to say it's not safe to go to Mindanao, but is it as safe as hanging out in BGC? Probably not. So, I don't know. Like they say, we all gotta die, but it would be fun to not die from being tortured to death or starved to death in a bamboo cage in the jungle eating rice with maggots in it and stuff, you know? So, those are my thoughts on that. You got to know what you're doing. I mean, not so much know what you're doing, just understand the risk you're taking sometimes when you go certain places. My wife and I were watching watching a video yesterday at the airport or somewhere when she was waiting for her flight, and talking about, or maybe in the morning, I guess, not that it matters, talking about places that Americans aren't welcome. Top 10 places Americans aren't welcome. And they talked about places where you don't want to go with a U.S. passport. And of course they listed 10 shitholes that no sane American would want to go to anyways, you know? I mean, why do you want to go to Yemen or Afghanistan or Iran or any of these places, you know? You know what's waiting for you if you go there. North Korea, you know? Who's going to go to North Korea? And yet there are idiots who do it, so I don't know. I'm not saying you're an idiot to go to Mindanao because I've done it, you know, and I hate to think I'm an idiot, but I know people who would tell me I'm an idiot for doing it. You sure don't want to go over there, though. Walk around acting like, look at me, I have such big balls because I'm here in Mindanao and the rest of you pussies are afraid to go here. First of all, you know, people that say that kind of stuff, they're probably not as tough as they'd like to think they are. And secondly, any of the locals around there who might want to put a bullet into you, they don't care how big your balls are either. They can just shoot them off, you know?